Welcome to Living Prevention TV, where when you change your lifestyle, you change your life. And today I have a distinguished guest, Charles Cormier, who is a techno whiz genius in so many ways. Charles, we would love to hear your secret sauce to success and how you've achieved so much online for our guests who are looking to take that leap of faith and get online. What can you tell us today that can empower us to make that transition of working for the job that just over broke into this lifestyle of living independent of the 9 to 5?
Right. Well, thanks for having me, Carrie. I'm a serial entrepreneur, traveled the globe, did various endurance events that are freakish to many, like Ironmans and 80-kilometer ultra runs and so forth, 10-kilometer swim. I've learned a lot in the time that I've been pursuing these goals because I started as, most young men from Quebec, chasing party alcohol, women back then. And at some point, I had to pivot away from that. So that's where discovered my love for intellectualism again and started studying with a passion, right? Trying to get great grades at school. I started my first couple of business as well in that time, traveled to Hong Kong, and I guess that changed my life because I discovered I could work from a distance. I could make money from a distance and literally a time zone that is completely opposed to my native Montreal, right? So first answer to that question is, yeah, seeing the possibility and seeing that when you cut the ties, in my case, it was with my family, right? Like my safety net. I really threw myself in a foreign environment. I could still thrive. So the first advice, it's not related to technology. It's mostly mindset. So first to take the jump, take the scary jump and trust that you're going to adapt and that you're going to thrive in these environments. Then when I discovered that, there was still a bunch of other things that I had to fix. Back then, I had a supplement company that was already 10 years ago. I already had a couple of agencies. I was trying to get a couple of SaaS together, software as a service, most of which failed. My supplement company also failed, but my agencies, they always were there to provide cash flow. So the second advice here is, yeah, sure, start a business as soon as possible. My first business, actually, with that same partner, it was a t-shirt company and we didn't even sell one t-shirt. So it doesn't matter what, you just need to launch ASAP. That's my second tip here. And that third, at some point you'll discover through your errors that agencies and consultancies are the fastest ways to make money. I mean, you can try to start another supplement business, but you need to invest in products. You need to know logistics and transportation and regulations and the formulation and all of that. It's really complex. Well, everyone has a special skill that they can convert into consultancy and get paid while learning on the back of their clients, quite literally. And from doing that, you not only achieve financial independence, but you also get more startup ideas that you can try to execute upon with the system I may talk about today, my cold email system. But that's quite fabulous, right? You get paid to learn, you live a great life. And in my opinion, it's the most scalable business that there is out there, a consultancy slash agencies.
Mm-hmm. And that's really interesting. Thank you for sharing that perspective. And obviously, you come from a place of personal experience, so you can talk to us about that. And I really appreciate your candor in admitting that, not every entity and everything you're going to venture out on in that scary place is going to be successful, but it's going to be a learning experience. And I think that's really the takeaway, isn't it?
Yeah. And Hong Kong really changed my life, because just to give the specific set of conditions. So, yeah, was serial entrepreneur back then, was already working at like 3 jobs while studying. So I had my business plus 3 jobs plus the studies, was already imposing a lot of myself, sort of ADHD nature. So me, I always did well with that. I'm a high performer too, so I always love to impose on myself. Had the gold chain, the BMW at like 18 years old. So I sold all of that and I went to Hong Kong. That money didn't last long in Hong Kong. It's one of the most expensive cities in the world. My dad provided for the rent and all, but still, like I had to pay for a bunch of things. Plus, I was running business, right? So I don't know, 5 to 10K in a couple of months, it just blows away. So really had to figure out something, right, in Hong Kong. One day I went to the gym and I got all my stolen, my wallet, my passport, yeah, even my passport, I think, my computer, my expensive clothing, and all of that gone. So yeah, challenges, they show up, right? They always show up. And what you need to do, you need to chill, maintain your composure, and continue doing what you're good at. And in my case, it was following a routine and getting shun. I was in a little I can I even call this an apartment? No, it's like literally a dorm, right? And my roommate, he was a 6'5" German. He was stinky and he was taking like the full place. So that's the kind of place that I was hustling every day. I was working at really odd hours because I had to stay up for the Eastern Standard Time hours in my native Montreal.
Mhm.
That means I would go to bed at 5:30 a.m. every single day. So when the sun came up, I got to bed. I also had to explore Hong Kong. The meanwhile, I was in the dating scene back then. Didn't know my wife. So like I was mixing all of that, but I was finding immense joy in seeing that I could thrive by myself with no one really there to help me. I would go on ultra runs in the mountains. Back then, that's where I discovered trail running. I would get lost in the mountains. At some point, I had a pack of like 15 guard dogs charge on me with pit bulls and Rottweilers and yeah, dog bigger than myself. So I had like all of these adventures, but I think the lesson here is that people need to impose like, yeah, really one hard adventure on themselves. And when I came back from that, I was a changed man. And I came back at the house of my parents, and then the priority became to move away from there as quick as possible, right? So what I did, first I closed a couple of deals, right, with my agencies that are quite lucrative. 20 years old, could make like even 4, 5, 10Ks from selling websites to realtors. As soon as I got that, I found the sunniest and prettiest and cheapest Airbnb there was, which was in Oaxaca, Mexico,
Mhm.
the place where I am today. And I did that. At first, I booked it, right? Always commit, always commit. So I booked it, I booked my flight. And then a friend accompanied me. He was without a job. I gave him a job. He wasn't successful. He came back in Canada 4 weeks after, but I met a lady on Tinder, my wife, Nadia, and we began traveling the globe together. I still had some anxiety of leaving my business behind, which now was serving realtors, which are really physical in-ground people, right? They sell houses. So doing business on even via phone call back then was sort of foreign. Zoom wasn't even existing. Um, so I still had to face that. I rented a car in Canada. So I had to get rid of my lease and so forth. So all of these challenges, right? But most people nowadays are so over analytical. They're like, oh, I won't do this, I won't do that. They create problems out of thin air, and that doesn't work in business. You
Mm.
need to be a go-getter. You need to always be default positive. You need to be rational too. And you need to impose a lot on yourself and know that even if I have piles of work and challenges in front of me, I'll make it. And even up to this day, to every single standard, I've made it. But in my mind, I haven't made it. I'm still hungry for more, and yeah, I'm not really looking forward to the day in which I'll have zero work on my plate and all the I'll be cash on autopilot. Like I don't view that life for myself. So it's build a plane while you're falling from a cliff. And that's what I did for 6 years with my wife. We traveled the globe. I hired more than 1,000 employees. I recently decided to fire all these employees because I found that AI would be a better system and so forth.
Yeah.
But I relentlessly tested and I was always confident in my capabilities, even if that meant I had mountains of debts, right? For the supplement startup, we had to write off multiple six figures because we invested tons in that. And yeah, I always made it to the surface. You need to impose a lot of hardships on yourself. The human nature is always to thrive and survive.
Wow. Well, what a story that you share with us. Thank you so much for that insight. And I do love your scrappy nature that you don't let things get you down because I really feel like so often everybody, not everybody, but a lot of people, the majority of people want to be in their comfort zone and then go to their next comfort zone. And that is exactly why they never get out of where they are, right? So, because obviously entrepreneurship is not a safe space. It's, it's like the Wild West. You're on your own out here, right? And and they say that I think statistically, like 90% of all businesses fail, right, within the first 5 years. And I think because people don't come into that space with the right awareness that this is not, you're going to trade your six-figure income, let's say, or five-figure income, or whatever that income is, for a business that's generating five figures the first year. Like there's a big transition here, right? And one of the things that I have found that's really important is if you have something that has some kind of an income coming in while you're building, that way, I think that's where so many people, they transition too fast. And I think that's why they fail. And I think they just don't have the right understanding of how much being self-employed as an entrepreneur requires of people because they're always looking for their safety net. Do you agree?
100%. Very important point. Yes, we live in a capitalist system. If there's no money, there's no fun, period. Now, most humans being oblivious, they go into entrepreneurship for two things. One, to look cool, to call themselves an entrepreneur nowadays, especially younger gens nowadays. Or my friend that's been 4 years in business and he didn't even make $1. Or they think they can get rich. You might be right on the second one, but you need to be a freak of nature, and most people are not freak of nature. They've been conditioned
Uh-huh.
since birth by the educational system first to become a great employee.
Yeah.
And then guess what? They became a great employee. They was recruited by a big corporation, went into the 9 to 5, and became a good dog.
Yeah.
A good dog doesn't survive by itself in the mountain when there's a lynx chasing them or a jaguar trying to eat their ass. So yeah, like me nowadays, my crusade, my tirade is to convert as many people into entrepreneurs, just like Jesus tried to convert people into Christians.
Mm.
Not that I'm anywhere near Jesus, I'm pretty much the opposite. Although I think I'm a good guy, I do think that humans are going to have a really hard time with the 9 to 5 mindset going into the AI age, which we've entered officially 2 or 3 years ago when GPT-3 and GPT-4 were released respectively. I think it's going to be impossible to thrive as a 9 to 5er, waiting for orders from someone. If you are that kind, well, know that your boss is going to be an AI, and that you're gonna sort of being taken advantage of, which you don't want, obviously.
Mm.
Being an entrepreneur is fully aligned with our human nature. I think we forgot about our human nature in the 21st century, being comfortable, having food, water, and everything. Human nature is grit, it's resilience, it's cooperating with a pack of hunters and coming victorious, sometimes suffering really hard losses, but getting back on our feet. Fortunately, that is not threatening us that much nowadays, at least in developed countries. So I do believe that people should launch businesses, should get out of the comfort zone, have some scalable systems in their life to prevent them from burnout, right? Because that's also really real threat, just to panic and get too much anxious cortisol in your veins and just be like, oh, I'm giving up. That's not like a natural human mechanism, by the way. It's not a solution to stop. What is a smart solution is to introduce systems that will keep you smart, healthy, kind, loving. Meditation, for example, sports, which I'm obsessed about, biohacking, supplementation, diet, in which you're obviously really good in. So if you start a business, if you constantly learn, if you have an open mind, if you network with smart people, if you ask great questions, run a podcast, run a market research machine like a cold email machine, you constantly learn, you constantly get better. That's truly in line with human nature, constantly growing, because if you don't grow, you die. That is way better than staying in your comfort zone as a 9 to 5er, getting these big checks, sitting on your ass every weekend, watching Netflix and growing 0%. And then wondering why you're sort of depressed, why you're plateauing, why you're getting sick, why life is boring all of a sudden,
Yeah.
I am a huge proponent of unleashing your creativity as well in your work. That's becoming more and more bland nowadays. I think that corporations, I mean, I love the fact that they've accumulated that much money, but I do think that they're broken, and I do think that they're favoring modern slave ownership, which is to have someone sign an NDA. Hey, you can't say this. Imagine being limited in your freedom of speech, when you sign up for a corporation, and then being biased, of always representing that company, like, I don't know, Nestle or Coca-Cola, that is injecting massive sugar in our veins and making us dull. Yeah, I think there's some kind of problem here. And I do think that, yeah, starting businesses, aligning with other entrepreneurs, that's certainly the way to go, and for humanity to take back what's theirs.
Mhm. Well, I think what we're really saying here is that to be an entrepreneur takes being a bit of a rebel. You're not going to stay on the path of least resistance, and you're not going to be on the course that is, smooth. If that's what you're looking for, then obviously the 9 to 5. But I really appreciate your point that there is going to be a big disruption, because so much of AI is going to be able to replace people who aren't creative. I don't know if you saw this, Charles, perhaps you have, but there was a study done by NASA years ago that started with like 5-year-olds, and it found that most children have a genius. But through the public school system, almost all of them had lost their genius. And so just like what you were describing, if you go back in history, they say if you don't learn from history, you're doomed to repeat it. So in history, what we learn is, people lived on farms, right? They were self-employed. They were entrepreneurs, like they were scrappy. And they, rode the tides of weather and all the unpredictables of, farming. But because the industrialists of the late 1800s wanted employees, they created the public school system to get the kids out of the country schools and into the public schools to basically create workers. That's why children start school early. That's why, it's the 9 to 5 in the school system, and they start that indoctrination at 5. So if that was something that you, have always questioned, I think it's you're on your path to questioning a lot of other things. And that's really what I think entrepreneurship is about, it's about questioning the narratives that we've all been tried to be indoctrinated with. And that's why having that bit of a free spirit saying, this is not for me. I'll take my chances. Yeah.
Yeah, I think our system has served us well so far. Capitalism has been good also for the planet. But it's time to leave our past shell, not necessarily fully leaving or past shell or destroying all piece of it, but to evolve, it's constantly evolving. So the system of governments as well is somewhat outdated. I came from political science. That's one of the things I studied apart from international business back then, and always had an obsession with how do we elect people, and how can one prime minister, one government have so much incidence on people. These are things that are, yeah, somewhat preoccupying for me. I mean, if we can't even solve that, how can we even govern AI, And one thing, like US, which is arguably the greatest country on earth, was mostly built, in my opinion, because people there were so entrepreneurial. Canada, another great country, which is where I'm from, the same. Quite entrepreneurial people, a bit less. They were more loyal to the Queen and bureaucracy, but still we were settlers. Same for Australia, right?
Hmm.
Great countries in which there were people colonizing, starting stuff from scratch, tinkering, having to survive on their own.
Hmm.
And yeah, if we get rid of that and if we protect our kids and the system and yeah, try to equalize them all and suppress their gifts, yeah, that's certainly not a way to scale as a humanity.
So in conclusion, thank you so much for, what you've shared. So what would be some takeaways that you would like to offer the audience today on how not only can they get started, but, do you have some great tips, I guess, on where to start? Because so often it's the analysis paralysis that people find themselves in. They don't know, I mean, you've mentioned email. So do you feel like email is still one of the keys to, because I know owning the list, right, is very important. But anyways, what would be your, let's say, novice advice as the expert on this topic? How can you empower people with their own system so they can create a
Yeah.
system, right? So that they can start making that transition.
Right. One, start a business. Stop questioning your own self, like if you are a 9 to 5er, do it after work,
Hmm.
period. And yes, even sacrifice sleep until you have something that resembles a business. Take the weekends. Okay. That's one. Two, what kind of business? A consultancy. Sell your time, sell your expertise, sell your brain. Three, how? Use Apollo.io, Apollo.io. I connected with
Apollo.io.
SendGrid.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Apollo is giving you 10,000 contacts per month to send to. And if you
Wow.
connect it with SendGrid, you can send 50,000 emails per month,
Oh,
which is
wow.
usually sufficient to get a bunch of responses. Won't have time to dive deep into cold email, but cold email is the way to go. Um, Once you do that, you'll get meetings. 1 out of 10, 1 out of 5 meetings will convert into sell. You just present what you have to offer to people. Even if you don't have a clue, the more people you talk to, the better you'll get at sizing up their problems. On sales calls, ask questions, rather than providing your solutions from the get go. You can try to provide a solution, but at the end of the call, and see if it's a fit for them. You really want to genuinely see if you can be helpful for them. So that's the business part of it. Four, last gift, read Wikipedia. It's an app on your phone, it's free. And every night before going to bed, instead of going on social media, anytime you go on social media, read Wikipedia instead. You can save articles, you can study business magnets, and you can go in the rabbit hole of learning more about these people. And slowly but surely, you'll replace all the in your mind stemming from your jobs, your friends, your family, society with accurate scientific information that is peer reviewed. It's not perfect, sure, but with time, you'll clean your mind and you'll have a better view of reality. When you have a better view of reality, you can control markets, you can make billions. So that's my last advice here.
Wow. Well, thank you. That's very interesting. Very unique perspective, I would say. I've never heard anybody, give that perspective about Wikipedia because I know that there's, some controversy. Some things are being scrubbed from Wikipedia right now that originally were there. So, anyways, but sounds like some great tips from a great mind and somebody who's walked the walk, who can talk the talk. And we really appreciate on Living Prevention TV all the valuable content that you've shared with us today. Thank you, Charles, so much for your information. And where can people find you if they want to get more?
Yeah, Charles Cormier on Google or Charles Cormier on LinkedIn.
Okay, great. Thank you, Charles. Have a great day. And thank you, everyone, for joining us on Living Prevention TV. Have a great day.